Hey there, this is Chris, and whether you're new here, you just stumbled in, or if you followed along during the Bang Shishigami project here previously, I would like to welcome you to the Lorelin project, where today we're going to be starting on the next model, which, if you've been watching the last 2 weeks, we've started playing Valkyria Chronicles 4 in preparation for this, and as such, our next model we are going to be starting is going to be Kai Shulin from Valkyria Chronicles 4, which I was going back and forth. I like the series. I've been going back and forth which character I wanted to do. But at the end of the day, I think of all the characters, I like Kai as a character the best of all of them. So for me, I think it's one I'm going to want to come back to again and again to try to get her character going right. And and as such, I will get to the trio I have back here in a minute. They will be used to kind of discuss what's going on. But in general, this is just going to be we're not going to do any building today. This is just going to be kind of not really a preview, but more of just kind of a planning of how we're going to attack this project. Which, again, if you are new to this, if you watch most kind of modeling videos on YouTube, they may condense like a 40-hour project, an 80-hour project, a 100-hour project, a 200-hour project. They're going to condense those things down to like a half-hour span and show you the entire process in like a half hour. And when you kind of go through that, it's great for getting inspiration. If you want ideas on what you can do, what you can get away with, those things are fantastic. Some of the models out there are absolutely amazing. I'm going to take a slightly different route than those. And I'm going to take, if you've gone to my page or whatnot, and you've seen the Bang one, we are going to go from start to finish every single step of the way through this project. And if you're new to modeling, if you want to do your own, at the end of the day, I kind of want to leave you with the tools you can use to then build your own, or have the confidence to build your own, the thought processes that go in, the techniques that go in, this, that, and the other. Because I'll be honest, if you want to make something like this, you see something on here, something like this online, it is super intimidating to just kind of jump in. I remember it was when I'd first started building these, I had watched a couple of YouTube videos. I bought the clay. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do it. And then I had the stuff, I had the clay, I had the tools, and then I got intimidated and chickened out for 2 years before I pulled it out of a drawer and finally went and did it. It's super intense. So I'm going to try to break this down so you'll have a grasp on on at least the methods that I use to tackle making these projects. So, what does that have to do with these characters we have back here, and how's that going to relate to Kai on the side there? So, to begin with, the first thing we want to do is we're going to need to build the wire frame up. There's a wire core that runs through all of these to kind of keep them structural. Otherwise, they're going to fall over and be flat. The clay does not work well as a structural element. It needs structure inside. So the traditional way I do it, I'm going to use, actually, our Link from Legend of Zelda 1 is a really good example of this, is traditionally when I built these, he doesn't come apart in pieces. I have one piece of wire that runs from the base all the way up the leg. It comes across, kind of comes up, back down the other hip, down the other leg. I have a second wire that runs from the hand, up over, it loops down, overlapping the first wire, out the other shoulder, down the other arm, and one more that kind of starts down by the belly button kind of area and runs up through the head. I kind of tape all those things together. Bim, bam, boom, there's your wireframe. It just is what it is. Now what's nice is this thing becomes very solid. As everything is connected nicely, it can't move. Unfortunately, since I started doing stuff like this, I now paint them. And that changes things. Because now if I want to go and paint kind of inside areas, I want to get kind of behind the ladder or whatever over here, I want to get the back sides of stuff that you can kind of see from odd angles, but you can't get a brush into. Well, I can never paint this model. It's going to be so incredibly hard to get like a paintbrush or anything kind of into some of these areas. if I ever move out of where I'm living right now and need to transport some of these places, this becomes incredibly hard to transport. And lastly, in order to harden these, because when I do my models, I use a super Sculpey. This is not the air dry, this is the heat dry. So I have like a little rotisserie oven I stick it in, which is why everyone is sized the way they are, because my little oven can only fit things that are so big. Is when you have that scenario and try to heat these, the hot air on that rises to the top, and the temperature is hotter at the top, and you can wind up burning things up there. So this traditional method, although makes it super structural just to look at while here, has a number of problems. So what we do now is we change things up. In addition to a wire running down the base, this one I believe was still when I was doing copper, because I'm a home remodeler by trade. I have almost 20 years worth of building experience in that regard. I've took architecture in college, so between architecture and making these guys in the studio there, I probably have about 8 years worth of model making experience, whether it be through clay, chipboard, basswood, whatever. So when I was starting out with these, I was just using pieces that we had left over from work. So we had like copper wiring and whatnot was left over, so I used that as a core. I now use if you ever watch the Bang one, I now have an 1/8" dowel that goes into the ground. It is much more solid. I use galvanized stuff, 16 gauge, 12 gauge, to do the various areas. And the basic concept is still the same. We still run a wire up. I now don't connect the lower half to the upper half, so that I have a chance to actually pull these guys apart. And I can now, if I put this in an oven, I can now keep these pieces lower in the oven. I don't need to have the whole thing heat up, so I'm not going to run the risk of burning up top. I can pull individual sections out like these. I can pull the hair off. This makes, I need to transport it, I can now take it apart in pieces, which makes it easier to transport. And at the same time, like if you're able to take the hair off, I can now paint the face easier. I can get around certain areas. So being able to take things apart in pieces is going to wind up being super, super helpful in the end, even if I can never, ever find out where this little hole is. I could never get it live on camera correctly the first time during the process, and I still can't now. So what is that going to mean for our friend Kai over here? Well, the nice thing with Kai, and the nice thing, excuse me one second, with Valkyria Chronicles in general, is they put together, this is the first game, but it is a pretty hefty art book worth of anything you can possibly imagine that pertains to the series. Well, this is just really the first game, but if you want character designs, if you want your characters, weapons, you have your armaments, you have, yeah, if you want any of this stuff whatsoever, they have in here. So although they haven't released a book for the fourth game, they have one for 1, 2, and 3. They don't have one for 4. I am still able to get some pretty nifty images. Where are we? If we take the webcam off, there we go. You can see we are still able to find images online of that quality that we can then use to kind of get an idea of what she looks like, what the scales are, what we're actually dealing with. So the nice thing is we do have source material or resources to use to make this with. And if I'm going to go take off this webcam and we're just going to go to a Microsoft Paint, because I haven't put anything else on this laptop because I am super good that way. All right, I'm not drawing stuff. Hey, okay, we're drawing stuff, good. So for her, although this isn't the pose, again, the pose is the pose on the left. That's what we're going to be doing. But assuming we're doing this, what I'm going to still have is I'm going to have my 1/8" dowel. Whoa, I'm using a mouse to do this, not a stylus, so apologize for not getting anything straight. So we're still going to have an 1/8" dowel going up the leg, and that one's going to go right down into the stand. We're then going to have our usual kind of 16th or 12 gauge wire coming up, over, up just a little bit, down, over, down, and through. And that one doesn't need to go to, actually, even if it does go into the stand, it can, actually no, for 2, we're going to have that one also go into the stand. On top of that, we then need a wire for the arms, which you would think traditionally would be up, down, up, across. And then we have one that goes and connects the head. And then if we need to, we can then cut the body kind of in half over here and just kind of pull the pieces apart, because again, the arm piece is not connected to the leg piece. We just have the one wire in the middle, so if I then do a cut after the first hardening, I can have a separate leg versus upper body segment. This isn't going to work on this model. It worked very well on Bang. It worked very well on Bang doing it that way. It's not going to work on Kai. Or at least I'm going to plan for this to be broken apart into different types of pieces, because I'm hovering my mouse over that as if you can see anything. Her right arm, you can see it come down as one that's holding the rifle. That's far enough away from the body that I can keep that as a solid. I can just run one wire up that whole arm and do the traditional kind of like on a Bang here. I can have one wire that comes across and bring it over and down. The left arm becomes problems, because I'm going to need to paint that left hand, which is on her hip. And yes, I'm going to be making her model without the cloak the first time. Again, I'm going to be making this first and then doing a cloak that goes on top of it that will be removable, and I'll be able to take the cloak on and off in the end, which we'll get to that because that's its own separate set of problems. But if her hand is positioned like that on her hip, that's going to cause painting problems. So ideally, I want to be able to have that hand be removable and put it back so I can paint it separately. Now, the problem she has that Bang doesn't is she's a very petite character. There's not a lot of mass to work with on her. Again, we go back to this image. She is supposed to be extremely skinny. So whereas Bang has like all this baggy clothes, he has the muscles, there's a lot of mass on him that if I want to have like a wire come through and just kind of be able to pull something like this on and off, there's just a lot of material to work with. I can't say the same for her. And that said, I can't pull that hand off in the same way I could say this, because it's wedged into the hip. So that leaves really only a couple solutions how we can do this. Going to come back to here, going to go back to our paint, if I can get my, okay, we're back in paint mode. So one way would be I take the wire on this side of the arm and bring it down here and just kind of nub it into her kind of sleeve, or whatever you call that. It's not a shin guard, it's the arm. It's the forearm guard, whatever you want to call this thing. And I can nub it in there and kind of pull that on and off, but there's just not enough mass there to really reattach it into the nub of a wire that sticks out. So I'm not really sure that's going to work. So instead, what I'm going to wind up doing on this, and I may wind up doing it, I may not in the wireframe, but we're just going to leave the possibility open to be able to remove her entire arm. So rather than just take off this section and pull that part of the arm down, we can do a cut up top here and pull the entire arm down. And the way I'm going to need to do that is, rather than have the wireframe come all the way up, and all the way down, is this central wireframe is going to need to kind of nub in here. I can come down, just nub there, and then I'm going to need to have some way to make a separate wire, which we're going to color, let's go this, have a separate wire that then comes down the arm, and then somehow have to make it so it actually attaches in that area. I have an idea how to do it. It's gonna be fun, but that's one of those. That's gonna be a big difference compared to how I've done this one in the past. Because this connection is going to be a big ol' experiment. And if it works, that's going to be awesome. If it doesn't, we're going to learn. And that's part of what this is. We're going to learn. You're going to be learning stuff. I always like having projects where I'm going to learn something new. So this is going to be one where we're going to learn something new on that phase. But I have an idea how to get it done. Additional problems that will come, or rather the second of the major problems that's going to need to be overcome here. Because really the rest is simple. The head can come back off. I can make the head removable. That's not going to be an issue. If I can get the arms removable, let's take this paint off. If I can get the arms removable, that solves that. Legs being removable, that shouldn't be an issue. Because again, if we're looking at, where's the other one? Sorry, we're going back to paint. If we're coming back down on, I always feel like I'm losing my stuff. We come back down to here. Again, right there becomes really kind of the spot we're going to need to break it in half. Or if I'm going to break her in half, it's going to be right down there, kind of where that shirt comes across the belt area. It's a natural break line that works. So we'll likely have the legs be a piece, the main kind of torso be a piece, each arm be a piece, the head be a piece, her hat, which if I take you off and I take you off, I'm sorry, she has a super cute hat. I love that thing. It's great. So like the hat and the head part are going to be, or the hat and probably the hair that comes off the back is going to be a separate piece, which then leaves really, if you look at her hair, it kind of, back to this view, if you see this piece of hair right there on both sides, there's another one that comes down there. That's going to be, I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to rectify that. If that becomes part of the head, if that becomes part of the hat, if I have to make that its own separate thing. I'm not 100% sure how I want to play that one detail yet, but so far so good. We have a general, in terms of what we need right now for wireframe, we have things. We're going to do, like I said, torso, arms separate, legs separate, one wire then goes up and kind of connects it all. Fine, done. The other big thing we're going to need to figure out on here is that cloak on the side, because I'm not sure you can see it super clearly on this. I want that cloak to be removable, so you can see what's under, you can see what's over, have the whole 9 yards thrown out on here. And if you have the head removable, then that should be just, you think it's easy enough, just pop it up, you're done. Doesn't really work that way, because as you can see at the chest line there, it actually concaves a little bit. So if we were to have like Bang, you know what? How about if I move Bang out of the way and use the actual female character, because that might make more sense. But if we have Tali here and our cloak is coming down, it's not coming, if you look on the side, it's not coming straight down. It actually concaves in a little bit before it comes down. My hand is in the way. As it comes over kind of the chest area, it actually concaves in just a little bit. So we have to solve that. I have an idea on how to solve that problem, but I'm going to save that for when we actually get to that phase. We're not there yet, but that is going to be, come on, we can do this. You can make it. That is going to be one of the other details we're going to need to solve in this as we go that I haven't had to deal with before. And there's going to be some stagecraft trickery involved in doing that. And the other main element that I can think of that's going to cause a lot of problems, or another one of the elements, which actually there is a model of her that is available for sale if you want to get. I'm going to go back to our paint mode here. And why am I... Okay, we got that working again. And in the official model, even they don't try it. But this, her ammo belt kind of down here. And she has one that's not pictured on this. If I take you down and put you up, You can see the other ammo box on the other leg that comes down. Yeah, so if we have those, that area, even the official model doesn't even want to touch that, because that is an entire engineering feat to get that done out of any kind of clay material whatsoever. It is so precariously on there, but I want to try it. I have an idea how to make the ammo box on this side and the ammo belt on that side work. I have an idea. It's going to be an interesting attempt. I'm not going to guarantee it's going to work. Worst case scenario, we don't put them in. But that is another area that I've never had to deal with before. And I think it's going to make for an interesting challenge to get that part correct. That said, the last main area that we need to worry about in terms of webcam, in terms of modeling her, is this is where I get to use Tali as my example. Before I go into that, just in case you were curious or want to know, my Tali comes with special effects. So if you're not familiar with Mass Effect, Tali is one of those. She's a Quarian. She's one of the alien races that joined your team. And in the game, if we take our sidebar here, we can put down there. That's the image I used to kind of base her off of. You can see it has the blue light coming down. If you want the real effect of what mine has done, this is when you have the correct lighting and whatnot, how hers actually looks out, which I really, really like that one. But that said, Tali, as you can see on the side of the screen here, is a very petite character. She's not that dissimilar from how Kai is going to come out, as a very petite character. Now, when I went and made my Tali, and I kind of had the underform, I'd taken these, I'd measured the hips, put it against that, like measure the waist, put it against that, measure like the thighs, the calves, kind of put it. I kind of had everything. Everything was correctly proportioned at the start, which was really good. And then after we did that, we had to add kind of the scale part on the legs. And then afterwards, we had to add the fabric coming down. Had to add the fabric on the side. Then you had to put the little chest piece on the front. Then you get the straps on the side. And we kept adding these layers to it. So by the end, although I still really like the model, she's not a petite model anymore. She's now just kind of almost a typical kind of fully built character. She definitely doesn't match that. So my goal on this one is I want Kai to actually be in proportion to what Kai is supposed to be. So one of my main goals now is how do I keep Kai actually petite? I just pointed with my little pointer, even though the webcam is turned off, which is awesome. How do I keep Kai petite? So the way I'm going to attempt to do this is on the side, I'm going to model 100% before. I'm going to do this harden her in various stages. If you watch the Bang one, I had like 10 different hardenings that went on during this. So when I go and harden her, let's go back to our good old paint program. What I'm going to do, I need to stop using my touchpad. Okay, we got that. Is I am going to finish off the entire lower section. I'm not going to do the ammo stuff. We can just cross that off. We're going to do the entire lower section here, 100% detailed by the first hardening. I will also have a rough kind of outline of the rest of the body here. Arms, not so much, but I have a difficult time of just seeing things in proportion as isolated elements. I kind of like to have the whole body done. So I'm going to roughly do the top to scale, but I'll have the bottom 100% complete. Now, prior to hardening, what I'm thinking of doing is rather than keep the upper body the same size and kind of in proportion to the legs, once the legs are done, they come down, they go up, they go down, they go up. Once that part is actually done, what I may do is I may scale back the upper. I'm going to carve off a little the upper form so it winds up being a little skinnier when I go into the first hardening. And then after that, when I go and kind of start detailing the rest of the body during the next phase, at that point, I will build it back to size to scale. Because otherwise, if I have her body the right size, I'm going to need to add the shirt. I'm going to need to add the chest guard there. I'm going to need to add the straps on the side, the knife on the side. We're going to have a cloak going on top of this. Every layer I'm going to do is going to add more to it. So rather than start with the actual body being the correct size, I'm going to start with it smaller so that when I build out this whole area, I can build the whole area to the scale I need it to be, rather than have the back be where it is and then start adding stuff to it. Because I know what's going to happen. By the time I get to the end, she's going to be, again, a larger, she's not going to have that petite form anymore. She's going to be a larger character. It will still look good, but it's not going to be the Kai that I want. So we're going to try doing that instead at that point. So, like I said, this should be a fun project. I'm looking forward to this. And like I said, this is just kind of a little more brief, although it's been like 25 minutes or so. So this is brief for me. But this will hopefully give an understanding of where we're going to be starting with this project, where I'm hoping for it to go. And yeah, once we start, we might as well put all you guys back in here. We started with you all on screen. So looking forward to starting this. And I said the first segment here is going to be creating the wireframe. And I want to get a coat of the clay on top, because I need to glue a coat of the clay on top of that. And when I'm gluing that down, it kind of gets all my fingers and bad things. So the first segment is going to be doing that. And then from there, it's going to be base out. And hopefully we should start getting to detailing relatively quickly on her. Because as opposed to Bang over here, she just physically has less size and less clay to push around and whatnot on her. So we should actually get into detailing relatively quickly on her, which will be good. Now she has a lot of detailing on the legs there to do, but we should be getting to that in a relatively quick time frame. That said, as for scheduling purposes on this, I'm going to continue doing the gameplay on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So if you want to follow that, that's cool. It's a really fun game. It's like a good stress relief thing for me and whatnot. I haven't played it in a long time, and as of right now, I have not remembered a single one of the missions I've done so far. It's great. I'm having a good time. That said, I'm then going to do these modeling sessions on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. I'm going to put out new segments on this. And keep in mind, at the same time, I also do physical. I also do like fitness stuff. And if you're familiar with Spartan races, I'm also training for the Killington Ultra-Beast, which is taking place in about 6 weeks or so. I guess 5 weeks from where this is being... I'm recording this a little ways in advance. I'm trying to get ahead of the game so I don't fall behind later on. But as of when this goes out, that's going to be in another month. I'm going to have that race. So I am training for an ultramarathon distance thing. So figure between these 6 days a week of doing these and probably say 5 days of work or 5 workouts a week, training for the other. That's 11 separate activities I'm doing any given week in addition to my day job. So I'm going to try to get all this stuff to work correctly. I'm trying to use this 2-week time off period I gave myself to kind of get myself a head start on all of these. And then once we get past the hump of the race and or the game, which would probably be around the same time if I remember how long the game is, then we ought to be golden at that point, and we can start kind of switching up the schedule again to do more or less, not less, we can always do more as we get kind of further into the project. Yeah, but for right now, just have an understanding I'm stretched a little thin on time for doing certain things, and we're gonna do this as well as I can. If we catch up to my own schedule, I need to take like a day or two off just to re-get myself ahead. That might happen, but I think I have a plan on how to make this all work in the end. But just bear in mind, yeah, if you want to watch the model, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. If you want to watch the game, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And it should be good. I'm looking forward to having a good time. And yeah, I will see you on Tuesday. And until then, enjoy.